A teen is in custody tonight following a fire at a Mississauga home that police say was intentionally set.
Plus, we're learning new details about the shooting at Drake's mansion last year in his lawsuit against his own music label.
And Mark Carney officially launches his campaign for the Liberal leadership.
You're watching Live at 5. Hello, I'm Beatrice Faisman.
And I'm CJ Liu. Welcome to Live at 5.
A teenager has been arrested after a house fire in Mississauga, and police say an injured dog was also found at the scene.
And for more on this, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan, who is over at Atwater Avenue in South Mississauga. Steve, what do we know so far?
Yeah, CJ, Beatrice, we know that Mississauga Fire responded to this address just after 11:30 this morning. It's the house behind me, 407 Atwater Avenue. And good news is that the Mississauga Fire were able to put the fire out very quickly. There was nobody injured. In fact, there was nobody in the home at the time, but they do suspect that the fire was intentionally set. Good news, the police were able to locate a young teen in the rear of this house, and they've now arrested him, and they suspect that he intentionally started the fire. And bad news, there was a dog in the house as well, and the dog was stabbed several times. The dog was rushed to a veterinary hospital, and we do not have an update on the dog, but police suspect that it was this young teen who caused the fire and then injured the dog as well. Here's more from Peel Police and from a resident who we spoke with earlier on. Let's listen to both.
Shortly before noon today, we responded to reports of a residential fire here in the 400 block of Atwater Avenue in Mississauga. Preliminary information that was given to us was that there was a fire at this residence and that there may have been an animal that sustained some sort of injury at the doorway. Crews arrived on scene. They did locate a dog that had some injuries, but there were no other people in the residence, no injuries sustained as a result of the fire. What we know to be true now is that the fire was intentionally set. We have taken a male youth into custody who is associated to the address here and believed to be responsible for both the fire and the injuries sustained by that animal.
It's quite upsetting, quite disturbing. This neighborhood is so quiet, so calm, and as we're talking about this little dog, he's been like a wonderful therapy dog for the gentleman across the street who just lost his wife. So it's like I can't understand somebody attacking a little animal like that.
Yeah, many neighbors have said to me that the dog was a service dog that was one of the people, a neighbor's service dog, but it was in this house, unfortunately, when the fire was set. So it's now going to be up to the Mississauga fire investigators. They'll determine the cause, origin, and circumstances of the fire, and then the police will rely on that information if, in fact, they charge this young man with the arson. I'll send it back to you guys.
Crime analyst Steve Ryan reporting live in Mississauga tonight. Steve, thanks for this. Let's go out to Hamilton now, where one firefighter was injured after battling a pretty large house fire early this morning.
Fire crews were called to the home on Country Club Drive around 12:30 a.m. When they arrived, they found flames coming through the roof over the garage. Crews tried to enter the home because there were reports there may be people inside, but the smoke and flames were too heavy. One firefighter suffered burns to his arm and was taken to the hospital. The homeowners were, in fact, not in the home, and everyone has been accounted for.
The fire then broke through the roof. We had an exposure to the property to the south, number 160. Firefighters quickly got into that home. We had a fire in the attic caused by the exposure. The fire was quickly knocked down. And we also had a gas line that was severed at the side of the house, which then led to some additional involvement on the side.
The cause and origin of the fire is still under investigation.
A Brampton teenager charged in a violent home invasion in Vaughan is now also charged with the shooting in London last month.
18-year-old Daniil Josiah Levy-Porter is facing a string of charges in a January 6th home invasion in Vaughan near Dufferin and Major Mac that left a resident with gunshot wound. Now he's charged in a separate incident outside of a London hospital.
On December 14th, London police say a pickup truck crashed into a pillar outside Victoria Hospital's emergency room. Several shots were fired, hitting the vehicle and the building. Police believe the victim and the suspect had been involved in a fight at a different location just minutes before the shooting. Nearly a month after the incident, police identified the suspect as Daniil Josiah Levy-Porter and charged him with attempting to commit murder using a firearm. Police also say between the Vaughan and London incidents, Levy-Porter was also charged in a bank robbery. This was in Markham on December 23rd.
Ontario is launching a new tool to help police services monitor high-risk individuals on bail for firearms-related offenses.
Gun crimes are some of the most dangerous of all, and these offenders must comply with their court-ordered conditions. This is not optional.
The provincial bail compliance dashboard compiles map-based and near real-time information about high-risk offenders out on bail. The OPP will manage the dashboard and say it means frontline officers can proactively respond to bail violations with more awareness of the situation at hand.
Our goal is for every officer to have increased situational awareness regarding those on bail for firearms-related offenses, to further enhance their ability to keep the public and themselves safe.
The monitoring dashboard was first started by Toronto Police back in 2018. It's also in use actually in Guelph, York Region and Peel Region as well, but it's open to all municipal and First Nation police services who want to participate.
The mother of a young woman fatally shot by her then-boyfriend says his sentence is far too lenient.
I think it's absolutely crazy. It's upsetting. I'm disgusted in our justice system. I think 9 years is absolute, considering he took the life of my daughter.
22-year-old Nikki Mercer was shot at a Newmarket home in July 2022. Alex Jolly pleaded guilty to manslaughter in August. The judge's ruling cited a pre-sentence report saying Jolly had a rough upbringing, started drinking and smoking marijuana by age 12, and left home at age 16. The judge also noted Jolly had a propensity for violence, especially against intimate partners, and said he demonstrated no empathy for Mercer. Jolly was credited with pre-sentence time served amounting to 3 years and 7 months, meaning he's scheduled to be released in about 5 years and 5 months.
We are learning more details tonight about Drake's defamation lawsuit against his own music label, Universal Music.
Yeah, Drake filed the suit yesterday, alleging the label promoted and profited off Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us, even though it contains what he says are false and dangerous allegations of pedophilia against him. Drake says the song suggests that listeners should resort to violent retribution, which he blames for a shooting at his Toronto mansion last year that seriously injured his security guard.
Now, the statement of claim says a group of armed assailants drove up to Drake's home in the middle of night and shouted a swear word before at least one person opened fire, hitting the guard, who is also a friend of the rapper. Court documents say Drake and his friends scrambled to keep the man alive while they waited for an ambulance. After that incident and 2 other attempted break-ins, Drake says he was forced to pull his son out of school and arrange for his son and mother to leave Toronto entirely for the summer.
Drake and Kendrick Lamar, former friends and collaborators, have been embroiled in a fierce feud since early last year. In that time, they've both taken personal shots at each other in a series of diss tracks. Drake's suit alleges Lamar's song has hurt his reputation and devalued his brand.
And Universal Music Group released a statement denying the allegations. It reads in part, not only are these claims untrue, but the notion that we would seek to harm the reputation of any artist, let alone Drake, is illogical. We have invested massively in his music, and our employees around the world have worked tirelessly for many years to help him achieve historic commercial and personal financial success.
Let's go to City Hall now, where the cost of policing was up for discussion by the city's budget committee. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us now live with details of the budget increase the police chief is seeking. I mean, Natalie, I remember covering this story last year, a showdown between the chief, the mayor, and council back then. What happened today?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Beatrice, and I can tell you a very different dynamic here at City Hall today. The top cop was here in front of the Budget Committee asking for $46 million more on top of that $1.2 billion operating budget. As you say, last year there was a political showdown. The police at that time were asking for $20 million more to hire more officers and improve services. But Mayor Olivia Chow, this was her first budget at that point as mayor. She pushed back on that. What played out in the following weeks was a very public battle over whether or not the police police would get their funding. In the end, council and the mayor acquiesced to that full funding ask. Fast forward to this year, the police now looking for $46 million more. That's a 4% increase as part of a plan to hire more officers, among other things. And it really did seem that there was no pushback from the budget committee today, which is, of course, stacked with members of the mayor's inner circle. The multi-year hiring plan that the chief is talking about would bring on 109 additional uniformed officers this year, 70 of which would be on the front line supporting priority response. The police have been making the case that crime rates and call volumes are increasing faster than resourcing. Some of the examples on increasing crime, shootings and firearm discharges were up 34% last year. Hate crimes were up 42% and homicides were up 16%. Now, the mayor has been saying all week from the start of this budget launch and on the radio and in other places that crime is down. That obviously runs contrary to the figures that police are presenting in their budget ask. I asked the chief this afternoon, how do they reconcile those numbers? He wouldn't say directly whether he thought the mayor's comments were misleading, but he does stand by the claim that crime is increasing in Toronto. Here is more of what he had to say about the difference this year compared to last when it comes to the political battle over the budget ask.
90% of our budget is tied to the costs of people. We are an organization that certainly, to meet our operational demands, requires people, and we've been given an opportunity to develop and deliver a multi-year hiring plan, which we did, approved by our board, which I think went a long way to inform. Well, it is what's the essence of this budget. In fact, is the multi-year hiring plan that is the backbone of it, as it were, and I think that's what played out today, at least at the executive committee, and we'll see how it goes at City Council.
And when it comes to response times, police responding to priority 1 calls right now, the average response time for those very urgent calls is 17.1 minutes. That's actually an improvement of 26% over the previous year, though the chief did say he does think there is a lot of room for improvement there. That is still a work in progress. Again, no apparent pushback from members of the budget committee today about this ask for $46 million more for the police budget. This will be discussed in the coming weeks. It will go to council for a vote in February. At City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Back to you.
Okay, thanks so much for giving us those numbers. We appreciate it.
All right, let's take a look at traffic now with Heather Seaman, who's got her eye on the commute home. Where are the problem areas, Heather?
Well, it's really messy out there. Thanks to the snowfall we had today, we're seeing some slick road conditions across the GTA. Some areas getting more snow than others. We had an earlier crash here, 410 southbound Rampant Steeles. That has been cleared, but you can see a lot of brake lights really jammed through this stretch. Also busy in Durham region, 401 through Salem. Much further east, I wanted to mention a serious crash involving multiple vehicles. It has closed the 401 between Coburg and Port Hope. The crash is on the westbound 401 at Burnham Street, so traffic is being redirected. The investigation will take several hours. Don Valley Parkway, we're seeing the typical volume here from about Queen Street to north of Lawrence. Again, Victoria Park, a much better alternate. The Gardner is also jammed up. Let's see, here we go. Eastbound Gardner, that is busy from through Parkside Drive to past Dufferin, and the westbound Gardner, we're seeing a lot of volume from about York Street to west of Strawn. In town, not aware of any serious crashes, but again, the roads are slick, so do drive carefully. That's it. Back to you.
Okay, a snowy day out there. Thanks so much for the update on traffic, Heather. It is 5:13, -5 outside. This is Live at 5. Mark Carney officially entering the Liberal leadership race. We'll have more reaction coming right up. Mark Carney officially launched his Liberal leadership campaign this afternoon in Edmonton.
It is my pleasure to welcome the son of Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, the child of Edmonton, Alberta, and the man to lead us into the future of Canada, Mr. Mark Carney.
Quite the introduction there. The former Bank of Canada governor looking to place himself as a political outsider while touting his economic experience. The 59-year-old has long been rumored to be interested in succeeding Justin Trudeau and strongly hinted that he would enter the race during an appearance earlier this week on The Daily Show, making it official today. The Liberals will elect a new leader to replace Justin Trudeau on March 9th.
The system, it's not working as it should. and it's not working as it could. People are anxious. No wonder. Too many are falling behind. Too many young people can't afford a home. Too many people can't find a doctor. And then we're living through the two biggest technological revolutions since they split the atom. And our climate is changing in ways that threatens livelihoods from Fort Mac to Fort Smith.
While CTV News has learned former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is officially launching her Liberal leadership campaign on Sunday. A source close to Freeland tells CTV News scrapping the controversial carbon tax will be one of her policy planks. They say she is ready to make difficult decisions to meet emission targets, but will not fight Canadians on a policy they don't support. They say she will work on a system that is developed collaboratively with provinces and territories. As a cabinet minister, Freeland defended the carbon tax.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke in Windsor today and didn't hold back when he was asked about Alberta Premier Danielle Smith refusing to sign a joint response to looming U.S. tariffs.
I would actually like to point out to Danielle Smith that Canadians know the importance of standing up for each other. That's why Canadian taxpayers bought the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, TMX, to be able to get Albertan oil to new markets. That was an investment that all Canadians made, that the Alberta government is making billions of dollars off of, because in what was a very difficult decision, the federal government, we made the decision to purchase and build and complete that pipeline.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister met with premiers to discuss strategy to combat Trump's threat to impose a 25% tariff on Canadian exports. Alberta's premier attended the meeting remotely and opted to not support a joint statement promising a collaborating approach. Instead, she released her own statement saying Alberta won't agree to export tariffs on energy.
5:18 minus 5. You're watching Live at 5. Israel's cabinet set to vote on the ceasefire deal with Hamas tomorrow. The very latest on the Israel-Hamas war and what happens next coming up. Israel's cabinet set to meet tomorrow to vote on the ceasefire and hostage release deal with Hamas.
The vote was supposed to happen today, but Israel delayed it, claiming Hamas was creating a last-minute crisis that derailed the agreement. Hamas has said it's committed to the ceasefire agreement, which is set to take effect on Sunday. The first phase of the deal will see some hostages released, fighting in the Gaza paused, the release of some Palestinian prisoners, and the flow of more humanitarian aid into the territory.
A large explosion and black smoke rose over the Gaza Strip today as Israel continues to strike the territory following the ceasefire deal. Gaza's health ministry, which is controlled by Hamas, says at least 72 people have been killed since the agreement was announced yesterday. Palestinians reported heavy bombardment overnight as they were celebrating the deal to pause the fighting.
And Tel Aviv residents expressed mixed feelings about the ceasefire deal.
We are all very excited and we are waiting for the return of the hostages. We are praying for them. We want them safe and alive, everybody, all of them. So we're excited and we're happy that the hostages and they're going to come back. Hopefully that nothing going to be in the last minute, but with all the feelings, we need to remember that there is a cost for this deal.
I hope they'll bring them back, but I just think that statistically, it probably wouldn't, all of them would be brought back and probably not all of them alive. I'm not very optimistic, but I just hope for the best. I mean, I know that statistically it probably won't happen, but I still hope for it.
Antony Blinken also commenting on the ceasefire deal during his final news conference as U.S. Secretary of State.
Over 15 months of devastating conflict between Israel and Hamas, we've worked to broker a deal that would bring hostages home, that would stop the fighting, that would surge humanitarian aid to people who so desperately need it, that would create the space to conclude a permanent ceasefire. We now have that, and we expect implementation of the agreement to begin on Sunday. As President Biden said yesterday, after more than 400 days of struggle, a day of success has arrived.
And a World Health Organization spokesperson says restoring the healthcare system is a top priority once the ceasefire takes effect.
80% of infrastructure in Gaza have been destroyed or severely damaged. There is a debris that will take years to clear. There is a pollution. There are no more roads. So the reconstruction will take long. It will take years and years because the destruction is massive. But what we need to do really to make sure that those health workers who are still in Gaza can go back to their place of work, we need to support them so they can provide health services.
A White House National Security Communications advisor says he's confident that the ceasefire deal will be in place by the time it's set to take effect on Sunday.
It is 5:24, -5, feeling like -9. This is Live at 5. Coming up, the Leafs will be without John Tavares tonight when they welcome back former bench boss Sheldon Keefe against the New Jersey Devils. We'll tee that up for you.
Maple Leafs are looking to end their losing streak when they host the New Jersey Devils tonight.
In comes Marner, drops it up to Matthews, shoots, scores! Austin Matthews fires it home, and the Leafs have grabbed a 1-0.
Toronto fell to the Dallas Stars 4-1 in a tough loss on Tuesday. The Leafs scored first, but the Stars went on to net 4 unanswered goals. It was the Leafs' third loss in a row. Puck drop is at Scotiabank Arena tonight, 7 o'clock.
And the Leafs will be without John Tavares tonight after he was placed in injured reserves with a lower body injury. The 34-year-old, who was in the midst of a strong season, got tangled up and fell awkwardly, twisting his knee in practice yesterday. He's being reevaluated, and the Leafs aren't saying how long he'll be out. Fraser Minton has been recalled from the Marlies.
And fans will get a chance to watch the Leafs practice for free when the team hosts its annual outdoor practice later this month. The practice is on Monday, January 27th, and it caps off a weekend of events that also includes a Leafs alumni game on Sunday and viewing parties for the Scepters and the Leafs games on Saturday. After taking over Nathan Phillips Square last year, the events moved to Prince of Wales Rink in Mimico this year. There will also be complimentary skate rentals.
5:28, -5. You're watching Live at 5. A teenager is now in custody after a fire at a Mississauga home that police now say was intentionally set. The latest on the investigation with our crime analyst Steve Ryan at the scene coming up. We're learning new details tonight about the shooting at Drake's mansion. Happened last year, and he's now filed a lawsuit against his own music label.
A teen is in custody tonight following a fire at a Mississauga home that police say was intentionally set.
And you see him there on your screen, Mark Carney officially launching his campaign for the federal Liberal leadership.
This is Live at 5. Hello, I'm Sija Liu.
And I'm Beatrice Faisman. Welcome to Live at 5. We are learning more tonight about Drake's defamation lawsuit against his own music label, Universal Music.
Now, Drake filed a suit yesterday alleging the label promoted and profited off Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us, even though it contains what he says are false and dangerous allegations of pedophilia against him. Drake says the song suggests listeners should resort to violent retribution, which he blames for a shooting at his Toronto mansion last year that seriously hurt his security guard.
The statement of claims says a group of armed assailants drove up to Drake's home in the middle of the night, shouted a swear word before at least one person opened fire, striking Drake's guard with bullets. He's also a friend of the rapper's. Court documents say Drake and his friends scrambled to keep the man alive while they waited for an ambulance. After that incident and 2 other attempted break-ins, Drake says he was forced to pull his son out of school and arrange for his son and mother to leave the city entirely in the summer.
Now, Drake and Kendrick Lamar, they were formerly friends and collaborators, have been embroiled in a fiery feud since early last year. In that time, they've both taken personal shots at each other in a series of diss tracks. Drake's suit alleges Lamar's song has hurt his reputation and devalued his brand.
Universal Music Group releasing a statement denying the allegation. That statement reads in part, not only are these claims untrue, but the notion that we would seek to harm the reputation of any artist, let alone Drake, is illogical. We have invested massively in his music, and our employees around the world have worked tirelessly for many years to help him achieve historic commercial and personal financial success.
And for a closer look at the case, we are joined live by entertainment and civil trial lawyer Trey Lavelle. Trey, thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate you being here. Now, help us understand this case a bit more. It's very unusual for Drake to sue his own record label, and the record label came out with a very strong statement. Help us understand what he's claiming and if this really is illogical.
Sure, it's extremely unusual. Because trying to launch a defamation lawsuit based on a song or a TV show or a movie is just extremely difficult because there's so much First Amendment protection and it's protected speech. So to me, this is a shot across the bow. It's not as much as about the legal merit of the lawsuit. It's Drake is upset, and this is how he's getting the attention of his label. So I'm assuming that now that this is out there, we're going to quickly see this go away. Because I think they're going to resolve it one way or the other. But this doesn't really delve in the merit of it. I think it's much more the relationship.
And when you talk about that relationship, I mean, started from the bottom, now he's here. I mean, we're showing our viewers images of Drake's mansion. Without Universal Music and obviously Drake's talents, he wouldn't be where he is today. So isn't something like song lyrics protected under creativity, Trey?
Absolutely. Song lyrics are entertainment, just like a movie or a television show. And unless there's some type of representation that, hey, these are based on a true story, this is real, these are true remarks, they're given First Amendment protection. And people don't deem it for the truth, they deem it for entertainment, which is exactly what this is. Plus, they've been going back and forth in this lyrics war, and it's more about kind of trying to one-up each other than really about spreading, defamatory falsehoods or saying that things are true. So this is not actionable. I would believe that the defamation side of this is going to go very quickly. But the other aspects on the marketing, it may have a little bit more to look at.
And Trey, you mentioned that this will possibly be settled quickly. What does that settlement look like? I mean, typically when it comes to a rap feud, you just settle it over lyrics. I don't imagine Drake needs money at this point.
No, so I think what's happening is Drake's getting very upset about certainly this latest song. Lamar is supposed to perform at the Super Bowl, so the timing of this may make a little more sense. Drake doesn't want this song that's about him to be sung to over 100 million viewers on television. And so I think that there's a number of reasons why they're filing this now. But they're either going to do something kind of chill this lyrics war. Or certainly kind of get, Universal a little bit more involved. But it seems that Lamar's gone a step too far in terms of what Drake feels.
And Trey, I guess, how does an artist continue to work with the label and vice versa when they've now got this litigation in place? I mean, Universal Music, are they going to drop Drake? What typically happens in these kinds of scenarios? He makes them a lot of money, too.
Listen, Universal's in the business of making money and making music. And it's all about the business. So yes, their relationships could certainly survive. If anything, it would be Drake leaving the label because Universal is doing very well with them. They're going to continue. They've invested a lot of money with them, and they would want to continue the relationship. And their feelings aren't going to get hurt by this lawsuit. If anything, they're going to want to, speak with them. Try to appease in any way that they can. That's not going to jeopardize or compromise their own interest. So yes, even though it's a lawsuit and there's some nasty things that are said, business is business, and that'll rise above it all.
All right, very interesting points. And also Kendrick Lamar coming to Toronto in June, I believe. So that will be interesting. Entertainment civil trial attorney Trey Lavelle, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Trey. Let's get to another story that we were telling you about earlier this week because we're learning more this evening about the 9-year-old boy who was killed in a single vehicle crash on the QEW in Oakville earlier this week.
The boy's family has now identified him as Damien Maracle. His aunt tells CP24 that Damien was en route home to Hamilton from a weekend fishing trip near Belleville with his dad and uncle when the crash happened just after midnight on Monday.
In a statement to CP24, Miracle's family says Damien was a boy whose heart was as big as his smile, and his laughter was the kind of sound that made everyone around him feel like the world was a little bit brighter.
And Damien's 38-year-old father was behind the wheel of the pickup truck when it left the QEW and rolled over. Damien was ejected from the truck, rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The boy's dad was also taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The OPP says the investigation into the crash continues, and police are looking into the potential lack of seatbelt use and fatigue as contributing factors.
A man is dead after a multi-vehicle crash on the 401 in Cobourg.
The collision happened just before noon in the westbound lane of Burham Street and involved tractor trailers and passenger vehicles. A 70-year-old man from Cobourg was killed in the crash. 4 other people were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Westbound lanes of the 401 remain closed at Burham Street.
A teenager has been arrested after a house fire in Mississauga, and police say an injured dog was also found at the scene. For the very latest, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan, who's on Atwater Avenue in South Mississauga. Obviously an incredibly disturbing case. Steve, walk us through some of the key elements here.
Sure, of course. So the fire happened at 407 Atwater. It's the house behind me. 11:30, just after 11:30, fire responded to the house fire. They were able to put the fire out quickly and prevent it from spreading to neighboring homes. Now, Mississauga Fire believe that this fire was intentionally set. So they are suspecting it was an arson. And this is why the Peel Regional Police have this scene closed off as a crime scene, because it's going to be held as a crime scene, and it will be investigated by the Peel Regional Police with the assistance of Mississauga Fire. The fire was intentionally set, and they believe that a young teenager who was located in the back of the house set the house on fire. And I am told that he has an association to this house. Exactly what that relationship is, I don't know. But the bad news is that there was a small dog, rather, that was stabbed multiple times. It was located near the house as well. And the dog was rushed to a veterinary clinic. I have no update on that dog right now, but police do suspect that this young teenager set the house on fire and stabbed the dog multiple times. Here is more from Peel Regional Police and from a local neighbor who we heard from earlier on. Let's hear both.
The specific charges right now, I can't comment on that. It's likely arson related as it relates to the fire in the residence that's caused some substantial damage inside, and there may or may not be additional charges pending as it relates to the injuries to the animal. In what capacity, I'm not entirely sure, whether visiting or whether family or lives here, I don't know, but it is not considered random at this point or an unknown suspect.
Came here about 12:30, and 12:30 we arrived here, and then everything was blocked off. Yeah, it was kind of brutal. It was crazy, and it wasn't just fire trucks; it was all kinds of EMS vehicles. So you don't know whether houses are going to explode or what.
And did they tell you anything?
No, there was nobody available, and it was a little inconvenience. I did talk to the police officer at the end of the street who was blocking the street off, and he said that they hadn't been informed as to what was happening either.
Possible criminal charges would be arson, of course, and cruelty to animals. Now, the Mississauga Fire will do the investigation with regards to the fire, and they'll determine the cause, origin, and circumstances of that fire. Peel Police will lay the charge if it gets to that, and they'll rely on the evidence of the experts, of the fire experts, to provide evidence to a court as to why they believe this was intentionally set. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live in Mississauga tonight. Thanks so much for that update. Time now is 5:41. It's -5, feeling like -9. You're watching live at 5. Toronto's top cop appeared before the city's budget committee today to make a case for increasing funding for policing. We'll hear from him next.
The cost of policing here in Toronto is up for discussion by the city's budget committee today.
The police service is seeking an increase in the police budget of 3.9% or $46.2 million this year. They say the money would be used to hire more officers, modernize equipment, and improve 911 wait times. Chief Myron Demke spoke after appearing before the committee.
When I go into communities in the city, I'm asked to have more police officers there. Time and time again. So the lived experiences of people in Toronto, where our services are needed, has been, at least to the extent that they communicated to me directly, that they'd like to see more police. When we do our surveys across the city, the data is very, very clear, and we've reported on it many, many times in our board reports, that the presence of the police makes a difference. Our cops count. Their presence matters. It makes a difference in the safety and well-being of our city and our communities, and people like to see our officers there.
There's a priority for every police board in Ontario, really, this year. We've been asked under the new Police Act, the Community Safety and Police Act, to actually plan a strategic plan for each police board and thereby for the services as well, by engaging the community. We'll engage with school boards, engage with councils, and engage with our communities. And that's something where I think I can bring a particular strength to the board at this point in time, especially for the first one under the new CSPA. We want to get that sort of ingrained, and then it can be annually refreshed, and, you know, future chairs will have a real methodology for that in place.
I think, again, my colleagues being on the board and actually asking some pointed questions and getting direct answers from the chief and from the board itself has helped, because now we know for sure where the money is going to, and it's going to frontline officers, which is needed.
Earlier this week, Mayor Olivia Chow unveiled the proposed 2025 budget. It includes a property tax hike of 6.9%.
The province has announced it's investing nearly $500 million to refurbish 191 GO train coaches.
The coaches will feature new seating, doors, flooring, walls, and ceilings. They'll also have upgraded washrooms and HVAC systems. Officials say the work will extend the service life of trains by 20 years and will support the expansion of the GO train network.
It is 5:46 minus 5 outside. This is Live at 5. Mark Carney officially enters a leadership race today. We'll talk to a former Liberal campaign official next. Stay with us. Mark Carney officially launched his Liberal leadership campaign this afternoon in Edmonton.
It is my pleasure to welcome the son of Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, the child of Edmonton, Alberta, and the man to lead us into the future of Canada, Mr. Mark Carney.
The former Bank of Canada governor getting quite the introduction there as he entered the room announcing he was looking to place himself as a political outsider while touting his economic experience. 59-year-old Carney has long been rumored to be interested in succeeding Justin Trudeau and strongly hinted he would enter the race during an appearance earlier this week on The Daily Show. The Liberals, by the way, are going to elect a new leader to replace Trudeau on March 9th.
Thank you all. I'm doing this because I love our country. I'm grateful for what our grandparents and parents built for us. I'm proud of what we've built for each other. A great country built on hard work and the right values. I'm doing this because Canada is the best country in the world, but it still could be even better.
Meanwhile, CTV News has learned former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is officially launching her Liberal leadership campaign on Sunday. A source close to Freeland tells CTV News scrapping the controversial carbon tax will be one of her policy planks. They say she is ready to make difficult decisions to meet emission targets, but will not fight Canadians on a policy they don't support. They say she will work on a system that is developed collaboratively with provinces and territories. As a cabinet minister, Freeland defended the carbon tax.
And for more on the federal Liberal leadership race, Mark Carney officially entering it. We're joined live by Andrew Steele, former Liberal campaign official and the Vice President of Strategy Corps. Andrew, thanks so much for being here. Let's start with Mark Carney, because that was the worst kept secret, I think, in Liberal politics. He officially announced today that he's in, and he's positioning himself as an outsider. Can he actually call himself that when he's been essentially chomping on the Prime Minister's ear and pulling the economic levers for a few years now?
He's certainly an outsider compared to the other candidates in the race. He hasn't been sitting in caucus. He's new to politics. He's never held elected office before. But he's got an interesting resume. I mean, he's not just been Bank of Canada governor, but he's also been the head of the Bank of England and turned around one economy in Canada during the financial crisis, but had to manage Britain's withdrawal from Europe in Brexit. So he brings a very different kind of resume for a prime minister than what we normally see in the country. So I would say he's an outsider in the sense of he's new to politics and he's never had to vote in the House on any of the issues of the previous government.
What did you like, I guess, Andrew, and I'm assuming you liked it when you saw him on The Daily Show earlier this week. I mean, he came out charismatic. He tried to position himself as like an educated everyman. He clearly doesn't need the money, so he's running, he says, because he loves the country. What do you think of his entrance in the race and the MPs? There's lots of them who support him.
You know, we're into a very trying time for Canadians right now. Not only do we have some challenges around affordability and the cost of living, but now with President Trump coming in just 4 days, we're going to be facing some real danger around tariffs that could really spell a significant problem for our economy and cost a lot of jobs, a lot of trade, and even create a real crisis around unity. So having somebody like Mark Carney, who's handled some very big, challenging files in the past, might be a real benefit for the Liberals and for Canada. We've really been stuck in a system where it's been the Prime Minister, Trudeau, who's been seen as kind of more of the same, versus Poilievre, who's been able to call himself change. And now there's a couple different people who might embody that change part that Canadians are looking for. I think Carney is very different from Trudeau. He's very different from what Liberals have seen in the past. And that's an opportunity. Freeland's also going to have to demonstrate herself how she would change things from where Trudeau and her were over the last 9 or 10 years.
And talking a little bit more about Chrystia Freeland, she is saying now she wants to axe the tax when it comes to the controversial carbon tax. What do you make of her messaging?
It's a real challenge right now because that tax has been in place, that policy, which is something Canadians really wanted when we were dealing with climate change 10 years ago, has been in place for quite some time now, and it delivers a lot of benefits to middle-class Canadians through income tax reductions. So getting rid of the consumer part of it, the question is going to be, what do we do if we're not doing that? How are we going to deliver savings for middle-class Canadians who've been benefiting from the carbon levy over the last 5 or 10 years?
Andrew, do you think Chrystia Freeland has a leg to stand on when she's making her pitch first to other Liberals, if she's successful, to Canadians as a whole, to say, I now want to scrap the carbon tax when it's something that I've been supporting as finance minister and deputy prime minister for years now?
Well, she hasn't had a chance to make the pitch yet. We've seen one story saying that's what she's going to do. I'm going to be watching closely on Sunday when she announces her leadership to see how she positions that. The obvious question for her is, how do you actually square the circle between having been the finance minister who expanded that program versus wanting to get rid of it now? There are some important questions to answer around that, but it's also an opportunity for her to spell out how she would be different from Trudeau if she was charting her own course being prime minister rather than just deputy prime minister.
And Karina Gold also expected to announce her intention to run as well. I guess I'm curious, Andrew, as a former campaign official, why would anyone want this job right now? Because you're walking into a house where there's all but certainly going to be this non-confidence vote and then right into an election. There's not a lot of time to make headway with Canadians.
It's a great time to be in office. I mean, it's a real challenge right now. We're probably going to see one of the biggest crises we've seen in Canada in the last 20 years, probably since the unity crises in the 90s. And that's a challenge, and people really want to be part of that and want to take part in it. I think this is not the time for cowards. This is the time for people who want to step in the arena. In terms of Karina Gould, I think she's going to over-index in terms of her performance. She's got a lot of good young organizers around her who do a lot of work, so I'd keep an eye on her as well.
All right, the race heating up and getting interesting. Andrew Steele, former Liberal campaign official, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is 5:55 minus 5. You're watching Live at 5. Justin Baldoni is suing Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds for $400 million, the latest in the It Ends With Us saga coming up.
Acclaimed director David Lynch has died at the age of 78.
Lynch is known for dark and mysterious films like Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive and the cult classic TV show Twin Peaks. Lynch was nominated for 4 Academy Awards and was given an honorary Oscar in 2019. Last year, Lynch announced he had been diagnosed with emphysema and would likely not be able to leave his house to direct any more movies.
Justin Baldoni has filed a lawsuit against Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, ramping up a battle over allegations of what happened on the set of the film It Ends With Us.
Baldoni seeking at least $400 million for damages that include lost future income, claiming the pair sought to destroy him with false accusations of sexual harassment. The 40-year-old actor has also filed a lawsuit against the New York Times for libel, alleging the paper worked with Lively to smear him.
It is 5:59 minus 5. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Thanks so much for joining us. CTV News at 6 is coming right up.
Have a good night.